Good afternoon, everyone. And I've picked up a new radio at the thrift store. This is a Realistic AM/FM two-band radio. This dates from the mid-80s, 87 I think, if I remember what was on the Radio Museum website, which has catalog pictures for this and whatnot. This is a Canadian model, as you can see by the CSA sticker, but it's also got a UL listing. AC/DC switch on the back, AM/FM on the side, earphone jack. Someone put a sticker where presumably a relative's favorite station was. Oh, it's a tab. We'll just take that off. And I tried this very briefly at the store and it seems to be working fine. The dial seems to be a bit sticky, so we'll have to address that. It's quite possible that using it a lot will solve the problem of a slipping dial cord. But okay, so that's a problem, but not probably that major one. What have we got in the back? We've got a large battery compartment, but it's got a decent place for storing the cord and space for 4 C cells, which looks suspiciously like there have never been any put in there, which is good. So what I'll do is plug this in and see what we got. Okay, I have plugged in the radio. It's now in position. Let's put it on AM first maybe, and turn it on. Right, let's just look for some things where I know where they are on the dial.
To get back to the road. Or clothes, or head to WeatherTech for your road. The global new Sky Tracker weather team.
So that should be 640.
Everything in life is built to last. Like a
and that should be 680. So it looks like the dial is still reasonably accurate. The volume control is not terribly scratchy, so that's pretty good. Okay, let's have a quick look at FM. Obviously we won't keep that on too long for copyright reasons. We'll start at the bottom of the dial, which is the top of the dial. That's probably 88.1. That's 91.1. That's probably 94.1. That's right around 96. And that's probably, that's 99.1. So that's CBC News. So in fact the dial's spot on, apart from the dial cord slipping on the tuning knob. So we probably just need to get some dust off the dial and lubricate the sliders and maybe clean off where it's wrapped around the tuning knob. Apart from that, the radio seems to work just fine. So let me get a screwdriver, let's open it up and have a look at it. Needs a clean, but it looks superficially just about perfect. All right, I've got it unplugged, got the back opened up, battery cover off, and it looks like we've got 4 screws to remove, and it looks like the back comes off. Which is the case with most of these radios. No strong. That one creaked a little bit. I really doubt anyone's been inside this radio. Not much reason for this to... Yeah, that one definitely feels like it's been in there permanently. The antenna's good on this too. And the antenna looks a lot like one that I have on another radio. Sorry for getting my hand in the way. Risk of shock, do not open. Well, I mean, that's not totally untrue. right? Okay, let's see what we've got. What part releases from what? Okay. All right, I'm wrong, and it looks like the front comes off, so I'm going to have to put these screws in in the orientation they came out in. Sorry for doing this all on making a big mess on the video. I got the knobs off. All right, let me do that off camera because I'll need to get a plastic tool to pry it out without damaging it, and we'll open it up and have a look. All right, that's done. I got the knobs off with one of these little soft plastic tools, and let's lift the front off. We have the speaker, which is not terribly generous. Interesting that they've grounded the speaker to the transformer. We have a small, I'll take that off so it's not damaged. We have a fairly small radio section here, and it looks like 4 screws allow you to lift the whole thing out, and I think without getting the tuner out. So we can have a look at that. Here's the band switch, there's the AM/FM switch, and the power switch is at the bottom. That'll mean that the batteries and the power will run in separately, and we can see that they do. Okay, hopefully I don't harm these. Let's swing this around. And maybe we'll take out, they put a little bit of glue on these. Well, one of the problems we have with the tuning is that the nut has worked loose on it right there. So we'll have to have a look at that. And I'm guessing this one here. I'm hoping that the whole thing comes out without separating from the dial cord. That's the hope. Yes. Okay, let's see if we can get this out and have a look. Okay. All right, so now we can see the back of it. We can see how the dial cord runs, a very traditional kind of mechanism for that. Here's our tuner coming in, and you can see that it's loose there, which is what's causing the problem. There's the volume pot. There's the switch for the power source. Can we see the power supply? We should see a rectifier somewhere in there. This will be an unregulated power supply. And I should say, despite the danger symbol, electricity inside stuff on the outside, this is from the era of enclosed transformers. So this is actually fairly safe to work on in most respects. There'll be, I guess, 6 volts AC out of here. So what am I going to do? I'm going to try to tighten this, if possible, here. There's a nut, which unfortunately runs right by the AM antenna. So I'm going to do that off camera because I don't want to risk mangling that. And we'll figure out how to tighten that up, and that should probably solve our problem with the tuning. I'll also need to retrieve the screw that I've dropped below. So against my better judgment, I desoldered this little bit of Litz wire that comes from the coil, which comes right here on the tuner, so that I could get a 7/16 socket in there and tighten it up. That seems to have done the trick. So what I'm going to do now is solder that back on, and then I think button this up. I don't think there's anything else to do at this moment. All right, that's done. This wire is reattached. I've routed it over the top as opposed to underneath this plastic carrier, which is carrying the other wires from the ferrite antenna here. So we just want to get this back into place. Maybe run the volume control, the tuning control a few times to see if we've solved the problem. And it doesn't seem to be moving. Okay, that seems all right. So what I'm going to do is get this back out, and I'll put in the screws again. That means one over here. You can tell because they had red glue on them. And then two here and here. Oops. I knew I was going to drop at least one. I'll just try to get it here. And we'll put it in position. If I don't drop it again. With pliers, and then tighten it up. Anyway, this is not something you need to watch on video really. So I will stop, fight with my screw, and come back. That's done. The screws are in, so just a question of putting the lid back on. Tried to wipe the inside of the dial glass off a bit, and then we just have the screws here, two of which are already in place, and one of which goes here, and the longer one of which goes there. So then we'll have it all back together, and it will just be a question of powering it on, making sure it all still works, and that's really all this radio needs. Now, a lot of radios like this would need some contact cleaner in the volume control. This one wasn't scratchy at all, so I have seen no reason to do that. So I'll put it back together, and then we'll give it another try.
Migrant rights groups.
So here we go. It's working fine.
People.
And yeah, not too much to say about it. It's a fairly simple, it looked like a one chip, maybe one chip and an amplifier chip. I didn't get a really good look at the board. Design, I think 87 is the date I remember, and it sounds like it was sold for quite a long time after that, well into the 90s, which you would expect with a design like this. There's not really much to change about it. So, not much to do, just tighten the tuning knob a little bit at the bottom, and it's a working radio. There's nothing required further, apart from giving it a bit of a clean. So hopefully that was a look inside, I suppose, of a realistic two-band, what was the model number, 12716. Looks like it showed up in their catalogs in the mid to late 80s and then stuck around for, 5 years or more. I certainly remember seeing these around all over the place. I think there might have been a black or darker gray version of this as well. All right, have a good afternoon.